Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs, and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today we have the great pleasure to talk to Joy Bufalini. Hello, Joy. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and welcome, Steve, of course.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Erwin.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Why
So,
not?
Joy, we could try to introduce you as best as we could, but I think you're the person who knows yourself best. So, who is Joy, and how did you come into the coaching?
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for asking. Happy to share. I'm Joy Bufalini. I'm creator of Simplify to Multiply. I live in Clearwater, Florida. I'm in my 14th year in the coaching industry. So I've definitely seen a lot of trends come and go. I ended up in the coaching industry after being a classroom teacher. I taught middle school math. Either you love it or you don't. I did. But however, when years back, whenever my twins were born, I thought I'd have a few kids, go back to teaching. Our daughter Amber was born with brain damage. So that totally turned our lives upside down, like, whoa, and I'm not going back to teaching, obviously. And then I did my own internal work, healing work, just through a lot of trauma, life and death situations she faced, which led me to find out about this world of coaching. Like, what's this? Wait a minute, this is perfect. That to leverage teaching skills, you can work it from home, all of that. So, yeah, so I've just learned so much over the years. Just you learn about yourself as a person. You learn what strategies work for you and which ones don't. I did a lot of them that don't. A lot of lessons learned in the early years. And it was really the whole idea of simplify came from me having so much on my plate with 3 kids and one of them with significant special needs. I had to keep it simple. I couldn't do all the funnels and tripwires and ads and all of these things. I just wanted to help people. So like, what's the quickest path? My math brain kind of kicked in. What's the simplest path to serve more people? And that's really what I teach now. That has become the Simplify to Multiply method.
When you say simplify, how do you define that these days?
Yeah. So it doesn't mean it's easy, but it does mean that it's like the shortest path forward, right? To get to where you want to go without all the shiny objects and bells and whistles. And simplest means that it's actually measurable and sustainable and scalable, which means like you don't have too many moving pieces. Like you really focus on a certain few things and really master them, right? Then you can build upon that so much more easily than having like 5 different offers and all these disparate launches and courses and all of these things. So what I teach my clients is on their way to 6 figures, focus on one offer. Make it really good, really valuable, exactly what your yes client, that's my term for ideal client avatar, needs. 3K or more, you only need 3 clients a month to get to 6 figures. And like, it's very focused. And you don't have to work as hard either. Like just do one thing and do it really well.
And
Yeah.
so you are teaching maths now. There's a lot of marketing language I'm hearing. Was that a direct line, or did you just build a business and then learn this and now teaching this?
Yeah.
A bit about that
Yeah,
journey.
it's interesting that I didn't know how much I would love marketing, and that was the direction I would end up going with my business. I think it's a little bit of my analytical left brain side of me, metrics and measurements, and I love communicating ideas. Being a teacher, being a communicator naturally, that's really what marketing is. It's communicating ideas. So I think it's a skill that can be learned. And it's also, I think some people just it comes more natural to them. Maybe that's why some coaches sometimes feel a little frustrated, like I can't seem to figure out this marketing thing, right? But marketing can mean so many different things. It can mean a lot of different things. But yeah, appreciate you asking that. I do love it. I geek out on it. I like to follow the trends.
Uh, I would love just to stay on that topic because
Yeah,
being a teacher, and certainly
yeah.
math, I love math, so for me, my sons hate them, but anyway,
Right.
math teacher and then coaching, that transition, the difference, and what's the difference, and what have you been able to take over with you as a teacher when you do coaching?
Mhm. Well, when you're a teacher, you have to do lesson plans, you have to set targets, you have to have goals for the classroom, you have to know where you're headed, you have a curriculum, which really, in a lot of ways, isn't that much different than an offer, how I teach offers. It's like offer is a journey. You're taking them from a point A to a point B. That's what you do with students in a classroom. The other thing is, too, is that in math, everything builds upon itself. Like, first you learn addition and subtraction, then multiplication and division make more sense. Then geometry makes more sense, if you've mastered the things below that. So it's kind of like that too with your marketing. It's like the most basic elements, master them. Then you can get to geometry. You can get to trigonometry if you want to. Like you can have all the bells and
Mm.
whistles of business, but I think that step-by-step building and it works beautifully. Math is beautiful, like that. It's predictable too.
But how is the difference between being a teacher and a coach? So I'm not talking about the
Oh, yeah,
marketing part, but
sure.
really that
Yeah, yeah,
from teacher coaching, the difference
yeah,
and the
yes,
comparison.
yes. Well, it's interesting. Being in person, in a classroom definitely has a different energy than being on Zoom. So, like, getting used to that engagement of like, I have a room full of students or clients instead. But I really think it's a lot of the same things. But as a coach, you're not just teaching and giving information, you're asking good questions. And actually, really great teachers challenge their students, with like thought-provoking questions. That's how you keep them engaged. That's how your sixth graders don't fall asleep or pass notes in class because you're keeping their attention, So I think there's a lot of elements there of like, I'm not just going to give you information, I'll teach you how to think, or not just give you fish, teach you how to fish. I think that's the best of the best with coaching skills for sure.
I love that description. I'm aligned with that. My wife was a teacher,
Mhm.
now background in coaching, and actually moved and done really well in corporate.
Yeah.
Where one of her insights was the secrets of classroom management actually work in the boardroom as well. Just position it differently, red card, yellow
Yep.
card, like all of those sorts of things. It's amazing
Sure.
how well
Yes,
universal humanity is. We grow, we think we're different, but the
absolutely.
core of people. The other theme that I see is every time I hear you talking about the teaching or the marketing, it's a similar journey to what we take our clients on as a coach. We're
Yes.
asking those great questions. We're engaging. We're building one step after the other, and yet I see a lot of coaches approaching marketing as almost didactic, traditional teaching. I'm the expert. Let me just talk at you,
Hmm.
talk
Hmm.
with you. You see the same thing?
I do. I do. And people think that's what they want. And that's why sometimes they become over consumers of programs too. Like they just sign up for this thing and the next thing, right? And for some people, it almost becomes a little bit of a codependency. Not kidding. Like a course addiction or something, to be funny. But I think ultimately, like it's your business. And I think it's really having that ability to be able to make decisions for yourself and think, there's skills to learn, but a lot of them are internal skills too, of like, okay, apply this, be consistent with this, And so I think great coaches will challenge you and, help you stay accountable, not to them necessarily, although that's helpful, but be accountable to yourself, tap into your why. Why am I doing this? And not just saying, okay, well, this coach told me to do it, so I'm going to do it.
And touching about the business side, so being a math teacher, well, you're just completely on the in the system. You don't have to worry about anything. You just come to school. So
Yes.
how has that been a challenge for you? Or starting
Mhm.
your own business, looking as a business person, coming
Yeah.
as a teacher and moving to the
Yes.
world. So what's been your experience and insight?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like when you're a teacher, it's a very defined role, right? And the people above you are happy. If the parents are happy and the students are getting good grades, they love you, right? Like hands off. And it was interesting though that once I'm in my own classroom and different groups of sixth graders would roll through and I teach a couple different subjects, math subjects, is that it still is your own domain, right? Like, okay, I create the energy in this classroom, right? I set the tone in this classroom. So while you're within a system, you kind of have your own little ecosystem. And that's what I loved about it. Like there is some freedom and independence. And here's how I'm going to teach this lesson today, or here's how I want to, how I want to do some visual illustrations of this. So within your business, there is definitely a higher level of responsibility because it's not like okay, there's the house, I'm going to move into that house, like when you get a job and work with someone else. It's kind of like you buy an empty lot. There's nothing there to begin with, right? You'll even have a blueprint, like, okay, what is this business? What does it look like? And where am I headed with it? So it is a very different, you know, uh, thing that you build from nothing, which is, you know, both unique and sometimes scary at the same time.
What were the scary moments that you encountered in that process?
Probably, I think it's interesting because I was always like an A student. I graduated summa cum laude. I was president of this, good at that, musician as well, and classical pianist. Oh, and then I got into this world of business, and somehow I didn't feel very smart, like in the beginning. Like all these people know all this stuff. It's just a whole different world. So fears of looking stupid, imposter syndrome comes up, fear of being visible, getting on social media for your business or, doing your first webinar or, master class, those types of things. Like it's a real thing because you're in your own head. It's like you're working alone a lot. Like, is this good enough? Am I just ridiculous? Is this any good at all? So there's a lot of that in the first few years as you're building from this empty lot.
Hmm.
Mm.
What would you recommend people, so
Yeah.
coaches or entrepreneurs that are buying the lot and they're nowhere and really that learning process in the first few years? What are maybe one or two or three things that you would
Yeah.
recommend to them?
I would say be discerning who you learn from. Just because somebody has a fancy sales page or has a big name doesn't mean their model or their container is or their energy is going to be right for you. So I would say, really just like I'm actually, a big fan of like don't just hit buy because it's right there. Or this person has all these big promises. Take your time with those decisions. I think that's one thing for me is that I have been very discerning about where I'm putting my energy. And, I would say as well, um, make sure that you're working with somebody that understands the first couple years of business. Sometimes people end up in these mastermind groups with six-figure people and they're overloaded with information. They're trying to do the same types of things those people further along are doing that don't make sense, in the early years. And I would say third, and this was a big miss on my part, I would say, is that work with somebody in the area of mindset. You're going to need it. I thought because I'd done so much healing work, I had read so many stacks of personal development books before I started my business. I'm all good in that department, right? No. So I stuck it out too long, with the fears and is this ever going to get off the ground? Am I ever going to start really making some good money? I think when I finally got to that point where I started looking there and and even just money mindset, like learning to receive money, it's much different when somebody else decides your paycheck and they just give you the same paycheck every 2 weeks versus you're deciding your pricing. And there's a lot of head trash that can go around that, of like, is it worth it? And oh, they just gave me this money. I gotta earn it, and all these things that can come up that I spent too long in that world. So you need the strategy, but you really need to be aware of like the things in your mind that may be blocking your progress and your success as well.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, especially given that there's lots of coaches out there and we go, we help leaders, we help this person, this group
Yeah.
with their mindset. We do mindset stuff, we do
Yes.
it all the time.
Yes.
What what do we as coaches, I'll say, what do I as a coach
Yeah.
need to know about your experience of not having the
Mm.
mindset
Yeah.
support that will
Yeah.
help me go, oh, that's what I need?
Yeah. Well, first of all, back in 2011, there weren't as many mindset coaches out there. Now there's so many of them, right? Which is wonderful. So many people doing important healing work, mindset work, those types of things. Um, I would say as well, when you notice there's pay attention to what patterns keep coming up for you. We're all going to have like a little imposter syndrome and visibility fears and all of those things. But if you keep seeing the same patterns over and over again, like that says, hey, that's an area where you want to pay attention. And if you do it, when I realized it, when I was throwing so many strategies at it, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, right? And I was trying to bypass, I think, thinking, here's what I thought. Once I make enough money, I will stop feeling this way. Guess
Yeah.
what? If you don't, it's just going to show up in another way, whether you're making, $100,000 a year, $500,000 a year, or $5,000 a year. Like the same stuff is still there. So I think it's really important, like to just make sure you're really paying attention early on. And then it gets easier, when you're really aware of your patterns and, oh, here I am doing this again. But usually you're so close to it, you don't recognize it. You need somebody to be that mirror for you and help you move through those.
Mm.
Yeah. Hmm.
So you moving a lot, your focus is also in marketing.
Mhm.
And almost the market is moving so quick. Things are moving so quick. There's so many things going on.
Mhm.
And that changes that. Sometimes you say, well, as you said, mentioned, well, maybe all those different programs and maybe a
Yeah.
good program, bad program,
Yeah.
but things are moving so quick. Do you have any, how is the market of coaches going to evolve
Yeah.
in the near future? Do you have any
Mm.
insight? Or have you seen, because I know you're in different masterminds and stuff like that,
Yes.
probably seen or have heard certain things, maybe where things are going.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that more people that I'm connected with, whether they have been, involved maybe in my master classes or in my workshops or things like that. I'm seeing more people that started in the last few years actually closing up shop, sadly enough. Like it's just like it's too much competition, they feel like, right? Mindset stuff, and it's a lot noisier out there. I mean, instead of just like Facebook, when I got on, we've got Facebook, we've got, LinkedIn, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, we've got Reels and stories, and like it's really overwhelming. So I really feel like it takes, in some ways, a stronger and more discerning person to be successful nowadays, and to be able to be very um, discerning. And also, I think we have to find more ways to differentiate ourselves, as coaches. Like if you say I'm a relationship coach, that doesn't mean anything. I just had a woman on a call last week, and she said, I specifically help men in midlife who have been widowed or divorced. Like, that's specific. Talk about that in your marketing, right? So I think that the niching is going to help people and getting more dialed in whenever it seems like there's a sea of experts to choose from. You want the people following you to go, oh, that's what I need.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So more solution oriented,
Yes,
niche
solution
focus.
oriented. Yeah, and more oriented towards like serving a specific niche of people. That so when they're looking at somebody who's a general relationship coach versus someone who's really specific, like I just shared, and that's their scenario, that person is going to pick the one that's niche to their specific situation.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And your messaging is then going to be more specific to those, and that's what you mentioned
exactly.
before. As your communication
Exactly.
goes, the more specific your target market is, the more
Yeah.
specific you can do your communication.
Absolutely. The other thing I've seen is that attention spans are down. Where I used to be able to do like 3-day master classes and I'd have great participation. Like people barely have the tolerance for 90 minutes. You have to keep them really engaged to keep them, watching and listening. And because we're so used to all these short form content now, and just instant gratification types of things. So I think we need to, in our messaging, get right to the point.
Mm.
And even like think about how people receive it. Most people are on their phones. Like, here's just a little thing I've done. The font in my emails is now 20 point, and so many people are thanking me for it. They're like, your emails are like so easy to read, like it's like popping at them in a larger font, small thing, more spacing, less words, say what's important. So I think in a busy world, like think of the nuances, like your subject line matters more. Your hook on your social media post matters more because people are scrolling, 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 scrolling. We've got to get them to stop the scroll, see your content.
Yeah, that attention deficit that is, and I think it's becoming shorter and shorter that people have.
I agree. Yes,
And,
I've definitely noticed that.
and the question is, how can we, not only as coaches, but as consultants, expert, business owners, how can we deal with that shortening attention
Yeah.
span that people have?
Yes, yes. It's definitely, about understanding that and from the perspective of people that you serve. And also, understanding that I think this is about the niching part too. Like you'll keep their attention. Some people say, I never read long form content. My husband's teased me before, like, wow, that's a really long post. And I'm like, well, are you that person's ideal client avatar? And he's like, well, no. Well, the person who is, he's even said that about mine before. I'm telling you, people read it and reach out from it. Okay. But it has to speak to a specific person, and you can keep attention. And also copywriting is a skill that's important to learn. So like how to shape a story to keep attention, to keep interest, to build that kind of emotional connection that's needed for people to feel that rapport with you.
I think you've touched something really interesting around this. Is I've learned this also for like looking at movies and series.
Yeah.
So that's the whole story. And if you look at a series or a movie that you really
Yeah.
like, it's because the storyline is really appealing to you, and you say
Yeah.
that's catching me. And I
Right. Got
think
to
in the
watch the next one.
copywriting needs to go in there as well.
Yes, absolutely. We've all watched, a movie or a series where like you just think the story just moves at just the right pace, to keep our attention. We're not checking our phone because this movie is just going too slow and there's, too many characters and all those types of things. So, that's for sure. And I would say when it comes to one other thing I've noticed too is that I was doing a retrospective at the end of 2024 of a couple things. And I've noticed some people, like, and I've even heard people say this, like, I don't want to be on social media anymore for my business. Social media is too noisy, too overwhelming. And I've seen a lot of people's like profiles, like, are they okay? They haven't posted since 2023, and so I think this just drives the importance of email marketing, making sure you're growing your email list, making sure you're sending out effective emails, because the beauty of email is you own it. And two, it's like you don't have all of the noise of what's going on in politics and the world and all the other things and ads, all the other things that are often going on when someone's consuming content on social media.
It's interesting when you say about email marketing because before social media, email marketing was the
All we
stuff.
had.
And then came social media. So, no,
Right.
social media is the stuff. And now, and I've seen
I
it as
think.
well, that it's
Mhm.
getting back to the email marketing. But then the challenge I see is that, and I've seen my own email box, it's like email after email, email coming in. So there again, you could go in a direction that's like social media. I got all those email and it goes
Sure.
killing through, and I just so what is what you mentioned before, and maybe if you could elaborate a little bit more about
Yeah.
that subject line and that first
Uh-huh.
line, preview line, the
Yeah.
importance of what can you do there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, using words and phrases, sometimes that your person, I call the yes client, that would be the right fit to work with you. Using, sometimes I've even had my clients do this for subject lines, like in quotes, like a pull quote of something exactly one of their clients said. Like, I wish I could just blah, blah, blah. Well, the people that follow them for that thing are like, oh, what's this? I just thought that today. So mirroring their thoughts, their words. Also, keeping the subject lines succinct, like put the most important words in the front. Some people will put a subject line like, I just heard about this the other day and I was surprised. Instead, put, I was surprised at the beginning. Like just these little psychological things that, again, what do you want them to see first? What's the most important information first? So that that will catch their eye. And sometimes curiosity evoking subject lines like that are good to use too. Like, or this happened to me the other day, kind of thing. Like, just sort of interesting. I Can be interesting. And sometimes a well-placed emoji in a subject line can just draw your eye.
Mm. So what I learned about email marketing as well, email, the subject line is really the objective of that is that they open the email.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then the email is there, the text is there for you to click to get wherever you want them to go.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to take them somewhere. Like I
No.
think there's also a good place for just what I call insight content of like you're just sharing some valuable insights. You just get them thinking a little differently. And I think it's good to have that balance of ones that have calls,
Yeah.
clicks, calls to action, and ones that are just pure value. And even better, if they see your name in their inbox, that they're like, he always sends good stuff. I'm going to open this, no matter what the subject line is. So that's another option as well. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I think the distinction you've made between catching attention versus keeping it, I think, is really useful. The other
Mhm.
theme that I'm hearing is it's on the wall behind you. It's to simplify. Um, no, I forget who the quote was. It may have been Einstein, but it's the essence of if you can't share your idea in a sentence, you don't really understand it. There's
Absolutely.
something about that essence, which not just from a messaging perspective, but
Right.
I'm actually appreciating from an owning self perspective. Who am I in this busy world of people that are doing similar stuff to me? And I think that that identity, that authenticity, and being able to go, actually, as a teacher, I'm a teacher because they told me I'm a this because they tell me I'm.
Right.
Who am I to tell people that I'm a this? Well, actually,
Yeah.
this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I love, and these are the people I love working with, because now there's coherence in not just our messaging, but I think our being as well. Is that
So well said. Yes, 100%. It's so, and really like when you're starting to just get comfortable with that, it's really a choice. Confidence, believing in yourself, you have to choose it. You don't like, there isn't some magic time in which you suddenly like feel comfortable and or in alignment, like you said, energetically. It's like you have to choose it over and over and over and over again. But then it does become second nature, like you said, like your brand and your energy. And that captures and keeps attention too. People can sense that, feel that, and it can be hugely valuable.
I love that. I think that uh, permission to choose is a place where a lot of us get stuck because we come from traditional employment backgrounds where people tell us what our job title is, what this is, what the salary is, what the role is, where we sit, what our phone number, like everything is given to us. And as we step onto that entrepreneurial empty lot, well, actually, you are the boss, you are responsible, you're also everything else in many cases, but actually as the boss, it's your lot. You do get to choose
Yeah.
And I think that mindset of
Hmm.
actually, I will, I can, I am. I'm going to choose today, and actually, I'm going to own it. And if it doesn't quite feel right, it's not because it's wrong, it's because it's new.
Yeah.
As you said, building up the habit of repeated choice to own what we're choosing. It's a really powerful place to play as we step through the tentativenesses of not knowing and
Right.
actually step into who we want to choose to become.
Yes, yes, it's very true. And I think in some ways, then your business becomes a form of self-expression of like who you authentically are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And more. When I'm working with entrepreneurs or coaches, I love to help people to recognize that they are not their business is not them. There's a lot of overlap,
Right.
especially at the start. And actually, that overlap is a big barrier for the scaling of a lot of businesses.
Absolutely.
But to help actually, your
Mhm.
business has an entity of its own, especially once it's been going for a little
Yes.
while. It's
Yes.
got a slightly different personality, a slightly different way of thinking. And that's actually really cool to watch your business do something that you never
Yeah.
thought you would
Right.
do. But it's not, it's the business that we're
Right.
connected. Like there's a
Yeah,
synergy that
it
starts.
is. Yeah, it's very unique and interesting and like nothing else in the world, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I think it's important to mention also that I believe that from the beginning, when you start a business, you need to make that separation between the
Mhm,
business and myself. The business
mhm.
is its own personality, although
Yeah.
you're going to wave in what
Yes.
you believe in, what your values are, and that actually one moment in time you need to transfer your values and say, these are the business values. This is not me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that helps you bring on team more easily too. Like I have 4 team coaches. So it's like, okay, first I establish, what we're doing here in these programs, and then, I can be, 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. I'm like, can be doing something else because I've got a team coach running my call. The business exists without me always being on Zoom or me always having to be present. So that's where your scalability comes in, over time for sure. Yeah, love that.
Absolutely. I got a million other questions. I'm also mindful of time. What excites you about our profession at the moment?
What excites me about it is that I feel like it is the fast track path to us all being the fullest expressions of our gifts. It's like we get to go up on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like all the way up to self-actualization if we want to, like things we never would have considered doing, maybe speaking on a stage in front of a couple hundred people. Like maybe when we were in college, we never could have envisioned that, we were going into traditional jobs or anything, or, being the person who makes really good money and can give away a lot of great money, can do some great things in the world, so I think it just allows the expansion of who we are and it gives us the opportunity to amplify our values and our gifts and really our circle of influence, like I have calls in the last week with women in Sweden, Poland, the Netherlands, UK, Canada, um, Colombia, South America, like all these women on one call together. Like, how amazing is that? So I think just it brings people together in a beautiful way as well.
I love that. There's something about that connection, that possibility, the hope that we have playing
Mhm.
from this place.
Yeah.
And as you've been speaking to about how do we build a business around that that provides the stability and the support for us to continue having these conversations, making this difference, enrolling and in many ways leading by example, stepping into the unknown to help others do the
Yes.
same, to bring their gifts to the fore.
Hmm.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Joy, it really has been a joy connecting with
Thank
you.
you.
You probably hear that a lot, actually. You're definitely bubbly, engaging, and very compelling in your energy as well as your content. So I've taken pages of notes here. For those that are curious, want to learn more, want to reach out, what's the best way that people can connect with you?
Yes, they can find me on my website, simplify2multiply.com. So just spell that out, simplify2multiply.com. I have a free daily needle movers cheat sheet. So it's a guide of like, focus on just these things every day and you will grow much faster. And so it's really, I've had thousands and thousands of people opt into this. It's very popular and just really practical. What do I need to focus on today to move the business forward? So I think you'll enjoy it. So hop on over and say hello and get the guide if you'd like to.
Thank you very much, Joy. It was really enjoyable talking to you, and it was really exciting and interesting. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the great conversation.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.